Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us in the latest Back to Business Scaling Up webinar. I'm Holly Schroeder, President and CEO of the Santa Clarita Valley Economic Development Corporation, and really pleased to bring this webinar to you today with Supervisor Catherine Barger and City of Santa Clarita Mayor Cameron Smythe. We have been doing these seminars to help our businesses prepare for the easing of the safer at home orders, and we'll be getting updates on sort of the latest thinking and status of what is happening at our county and city governments. We're doing these webinars under a grant that we've received from Wells Fargo Foundation and with our friends at the SCV Chamber. John Musella from the Chamber is here. I'll turn it over to him for a moment to do a quick intro and we'll get going with our speakers.
Thanks so much, Holly, and good morning, everyone. And thank you to Supervisor Barger and Mayor Smythe for joining us this morning as well. My name is John Musella. I'm with the Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce. And as many of you know, the SCV Chamber has been the voice of our business community now for nearly a century. We've been with our business community through good times and through challenging times, but we've always been here to be part of your success. And this crisis is clearly no different. We've been very busy advocating on behalf of our business community to get us reopened and to get our economy moving again. So we are very pleased today to again be working with the SCV EDC and Wells Fargo to bring to you another webinar as our Back to Business Scaling Up series. And with that, I want to turn it back over to Holly and we'll get right into it.
Well, I'm going to be very quick because we got a little bit of a delay started here. So I'm going to turn it right over to our county supervisor, Supervisor Catherine Barger. I don't think she needs a bunch of introduction. Those of us that have been seeing the press releases see her every day. Supervisor Barger, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome.
Well, I want to thank you for having me, and I want to thank you all for being such incredible partners. There's no question that these are challenging times, and over the last few weeks, I've been crunching the numbers, and I've been working closely with the City of Santa Clarita to really address the concerns as it relates to when can we reopen. We're ready to reopen. The numbers in the region really don't show that there is a significant risk to reopening safely. And I only, have to look at the stats right now, and the data reveals that the risk of reopening is lower than originally thought. There are 0 deaths in the population under 18 out of a population of 3 million. There have been 52 deaths under 40 out of a population of 6.5 million, representing less than 1 death in 100,000, and that there have been 450 deaths under 65 out of a population of 8.75. The reason why I point this out is because I believe that we need to educate the state about what we've done thus far, and I would argue that the Safer at Home is why we have this data in front of us. And my goal is to align with the state as it relates to their criteria and push the state to allow us to move forward with safely reopening. And I tell people post COVID-19, it's not going to look like it did prior, but I know that our communities are educated about how to do social distancing, the need to wear a mask, the need to recognize that the virus is still out there, but if we practice and protect ourselves, we can continue to keep the curve flat. So I look forward to hearing some of the questions from our business leaders and working with the City of Santa Clarita. I got off the phone again with the city manager this morning. We're moving forward with the motion. Janice Hahn and I are bringing in a motion, in fact, to push the state to allow for variances within LA County. One would be Santa Clarita, the Santa Clarita region, not just the city, but also the unincorporated area, also the North Valley, Palmdale, Lancaster. I believe that we need to provide an opportunity for our cities to really create their own destiny. So with that, thank you for having me. Thank you, John, and I want to thank Wells Fargo for sponsoring this.
Well, thank you, Supervisor, and that is exciting news and breaking news, really. So you heard it here first. Thank you for letting us know about that. I think there will probably be some follow-up questions. But Mayor Smythe, that's good news that that the supervisor just laid out. You obviously had a call earlier today. So would you like to, kind of comment and make some additional remarks? Thank you.
No, sure. Thank you, Holly. And it is absolutely, amazing news. And the supervisor has been a great partner, and she and her staff have been completely accessible to the city and those of us in the North County Coalition that has been working to provide the data to support what the supervisor had said about the data. And the reason why she and the board are going to be able to move forward with that motion and asking for kind of a sub-regional variance is because of the efforts of our community. From when the order hit in March, I have always said our Santa Clarita in particular aggressively followed those orders. People were wearing their facial coverings. They stayed at home, doing the distance learning with their kids, really putting in the work, and it has reflected, in the data. And I know that yesterday the Santa Clarita Valley, hit the cumulative total of roughly 1,000 confirmed cases since we started tracking in early March. But as noted, roughly a quarter of that are inmates at our correctional facilities in Castaic, and so that's obviously a very isolated and controlled population. And so while those numbers show hit that overall 1,000, when you break it down, as the supervisor did, about the data by age and the true impacts, it very much supports the effort. And so I know the constant mantra has been, let the science be the guide and don't act emotionally and don't react emotionally. And the science and the numbers of two plus months worth of data are really reinforcing that. And so that was the impetus for us to reach out to the supervisor first, because she's always been our great an advocate, and this is great to hear. And just one other plug, things are happening not COVID related, and I know that it's hard to imagine that, but we got some really good news this week as well on the transportation front, with funding for improvements along the I-5 that, again, the North County Transportation Coalition, which the supervisor chairs and again meets up with Santa Clarita and the Antelope Valley, advocated strongly for that support. And it may not be getting the attention because of everything that's happening in the COVID world, but to get that additional dollars for relief on the 5 freeway is going to be important for many of us that are on this call today, that once things start reopening and people will get back on the road, there will be more improvements coming along the I-5. So again, a great team effort between the region, the county, the city, our business communities, all working together to make that happen. So some good news that isn't COVID related.
Hard to believe there's anything going on that's not COVID related.
Exactly. And I think that's really great news to hear from Supervisor Barger and from Cameron about the fact that we'll be able to get some of our business hopefully reopened if we can do that successfully. And one of the things we've heard from businesses is that, they're okay with people wearing masks and social distancing in their businesses. They just want to reopen safely. They understand there's going to be precautions going forward, that things are going to be a little bit different, and that's okay. And I think if we're able to do this and move forward before July 4th in this North County region with Santa Clarita, then we really all need to work together in the business community, residents of this area, to make sure that we don't see a spike, that this doesn't come back and create additional difficulty for us in the future, that we want to do this responsibly so that we can keep our businesses open, because so many people have been hit so hard during this that we got to get people back to work.
So maybe to take that into a little bit of a question, what is the sort of monitoring process, Supervisor, that and perhaps this is guidance from the state of how are we, as all of the state is moving forward towards reopening at varying paces, and what is going to be that mechanism to give people confidence that we are tracking, so that if there is another action that's needed, we know what it be, and what might that other action be?
Well, so the way it works is, I mean, the state is the supreme authority in terms of what phases we go into. And so we live under their guidelines. We can become more strict, but we cannot be more lenient as it relates to whatever the governor announces is going to be lifted in restrictions. Where the county has, I think, gone a little too far is on some areas they've been too strict and have not recognized that our numbers are such that we should be aligned with the state. So I'm pushing and I'm hoping next week my colleagues will support aligning all of our health orders with the state's health orders, because the reality is that the state is lifting these guidelines, and we need to have clarity in how we do it. And right now there is no clarity. People get very confused. We are in stage 2 right now. And stage 2, one of the modifications we're going to do today, just FYI, is currently under the county order, not the state. The county interprets that if you have a store in the mall, you cannot do curbside pickup. That is ridiculous. So we are going to be modifying the health orders today to allow all stores within a mall, and the state has not allowed the malls to open, but they have allowed the mall stores to do curbside pickup. So we are going to modify our plans to be aligned with the state so that those stores that are in malls are able to at least do curbside pickup. We're also going to allow, we got a lot of requests for graduation parades because a lot of the seniors are not able to walk the stage to get their diploma. The health department said absolutely not, that's considered an event. I fought hard and am proud to say that we are going to now allow graduation parades for those school districts that want to have a celebration, recognizing social distancing and all that in the guidelines. So that's going to be modified today. And also the beaches, the parking and bike paths on the beaches are going to be modified under the health order. But as we move through stage 2, the numbers come from the state and also from the county. You hear our director of public health talk about the number of positives and the number of deaths. Where I am focused is the fact that, number one, the deaths are 65 and older and pre-existing conditions. And so we should recognize that even as we ease restrictions, that population probably should still be careful. But it doesn't mean we have to lock down the entire county. We should focus on who is at greatest risk and where it is happening and triangulate there versus shutting down the whole county, because now we have a lot more data that shows that we can control it if we focus on those populations. So that's really what we're looking at. But in answer to your original question, though, Holly, about the data, that is driven by both the state and our public health through the results that we get through the labs as the tests are taken. And we've increased the testing capacity. Our positive rate is stayed steady. So we know that there's not a growth. It started out for every one person that was infected, 4 people got infected. Now it's 1 to 1. And that's probably even less than that right now. So that tells me that we have done an incredible job, especially in the Santa Clarita, with recognizing that if you do if you abide by the rules, we can stop and we can slow the spread. Even the census of Henry Mayo has stayed steady. So I think it's time for us to recognize that we've done it. We know what we need to do moving forward. Let us be adults. Let us control our destiny, because a lot of these small businesses, if not allowed to open, are questioning whether they'll ever be able to get back up on their feet.
Let's so there's a lot of questions coming in, a lot of questions about specific industries, and I don't know if we'll be able to respond to all of them, but let's do at least one that cuts across. Let's talk about masks for a little bit. John mentioned masks. There's questions about, can we be in, you mentioned events, can we be in groups if people wear masks and social distancing? What if you're doing activities that, like your kids are doing gymnastics and maybe it's not healthy to have airflow restricted? So let's maybe, Mayor Smythe, maybe start with you a little bit about what is actually the expectation in the city of Santa Clarita, and then let's just talk about where we think, what kind of guidance is going to keep, as we continue to open up, what kind of guidance do we anticipate going forward?
Sure, and there was initial round of confusion last week as well when Mayor Garcetti amended the order for the city of LA for even more restrictions on the facial coverings and masks. And it's clarified that here in the city of Santa Clarita Valley, the county, unless your city has made a more specific order, that facial coverings are still required when visiting essential businesses, your grocery stores and and others. The social distancing still needs to be observed, and I know many stores have put in the one-way lanes for grocery stores now. I know my local grocery store has put marks for where to stand to keep your social distancing when you're in line to check out, and I think that's going to be part of our our future for for a while, and I think overwhelmingly people have accepted that and understand that, and even the small businesses that have yet to be deemed essential or been able to open, many of them have reached out and said, we have our plan in place already, whether it be as an individual business or as an organization. I know many youth sports organizations have their parent companies or boards have released guidelines for their specific sport. So, obviously you have more issues in social distancing with soccer than you will with golf or gymnastics, which things that you can create. So, I think that's going to be part of our future for a while. But I also know from what I hear, everybody accepts that, is willing to handle it, and I think everyone's very thankful that they don't have to wear a mask when they're jogging and throughout at the parks or trails, and so that was good to have some clarity there.
Yeah, and let me just follow up on that. I mean, Dr. Ferrer made it clear, if you're doing things like riding a bike, or you are, especially in this heat, by yourself, you don't need to wear a mask, but you should always carry one with you in case you come in areas where there might be a lot of people. And what we always remind people is a mask is to protect someone else, because it's the studies show that it does actually slow the spread. So we know now with the data that it is truly a good safeguard to have. So when you're going out in public and you're going to be in an area where there are people, even beyond the essential, if you're hiking, keep it in your pocket and have it so that if you come close to people, you can put your mask on. But it is not mandated. In the city of LA, if I leave my office right now, I have to wear the mask everywhere I go, even if there's nobody else around. It's mandated within the city of LA. It's not part of our mandate in the county, but we highly, highly, highly suggest it. Recognizing common sense that if you're doing activities where you are jogging or whatnot, it's probably not smart to wear a mask, because it can affect your ability to get the air in, especially in the heat.
Let's talk a little bit about the reopening process, and I'll just sort of run off a few of the areas that have come in for questions, which I don't think we'll do it, but I mean, some of them are ones you're regularly getting questions about. Obviously, restaurants, events within restaurants or other venues, religious groups, residential real estate, salons and hair appointments, barbershops, etc. I mean, these are questions that are coming in. I am appreciative of the supervisor's nomination to serve on one of the work groups for the reopening recovery and resiliency task force. What do you see as that process of, I mean, how detailed do we expect to see guidance? What do you talk about what happens over the next month, 6 weeks as these orders are relaxed?
So the Resiliency Task Force, first of all, thank you, Holly, for serving on it. Also, Ivan is serving on the Chamber of Commerce, is serving on the Small Business Working Group. And I've got Roger Seaver serving on the Health and Bioscience Working Group. I wanted to make sure that Santa Clarita was represented. The purpose of this Resiliency Task Force is to provide all industries, including restaurants, with the opportunity to create your own destiny. And at our second meeting, we had reports from all sectors, and it was sobering. When you look at who's the hardest hit, small businesses, people earning under $50,000, 80%, have been laid off and are not working now. And those are people that probably didn't have a lot of savings. So really the purpose is for health to give you the guidelines and then let you put together a plan that is going to be safely reopening. And when I threw out the July 4th date, that was a worst case scenario. My goal was looking at when we want all the task force to have the reports completed, June 30th. I wanted each and every sector to know that we're not going to sit on those reports and say, okay, thank you. Our goal is to implement sooner rather than later, as soon as the governor lets up on those restrictions. For example, you talked about religious. Even if the county health officer said religion can go forward, the state has not signed off on that. Therefore, we cannot allow that to happen. Barber shops, I mean, I need a haircut. They're not allowed to open right now. That is up in the state right now, and we're waiting for them to lift those restrictions, which is why I want the county to be aligned with the state, because as soon as they lift them, I want to be able to roll that out and allow it to move forward.
No, I know Holly's working group, you started your first meetings this morning, and Ivan has his small business working group this morning as well. So those are getting underway, and I think that's really important for people in Santa Clarita to know that you were so instrumental in making sure that Santa Clarita was well represented on those task forces, being the third largest city in LA County and the largest, obviously, in the 5th district. And we really appreciate that, because our businesses have been hurting up here, and it's nice to know that they're being heard directly downtown through these working groups in the task force. That's really fantastic to have that representation and input.
Yeah, and we've got restaurant sector too. And when I heard that 80,000 people have been laid off in the restaurant industry, and some of these restaurants may not open again. We've got 1 million people that have applied for unemployment in LA County. Again, very sobering.
Yeah, and just to add to that, to bring it into more specifically to Santa Clarita, that Wallet Hub ranked Santa Clarita as the city, the third most hard hit city in California for unemployment as a result, 17th in the nation. And so we are definitely taking a significant hit to our community. I think given the sectors that our workforce is in, particularly around the entertainment industry and the number of below the line employees that live here, and with production being completely stopped, took a big hit. So I think that's generally, those stats are very real, and people are feeling it for sure.
Mayor Smythe, what if we appreciate the motion that will go forward at the board on Tuesday. Let's assume it's approved, and that the governor's office favorably responds and allows the county to have regional variances. What is the city's thinking on what it can do to help? We would follow this health orders, but what else can the city do, and are they thinking about in terms of ways to stimulate the economy and help get people back to work?
So what because the openings will, the first round would be around the restaurant sector and some of the retail. We are looking at what some other cities are doing. I know the state is announced some flexibility around the purchase or consumption of alcohol on sidewalks and outside, and I think our Main Street is a perfect place to see what some other cities have done, and close Main Street off maybe once a week, twice a week, to drive through and leave it pedestrian only, and then allow that enables our restaurants to put tables outside so they can expand their capacity, still maintaining that social distancing. We have the great parking lot now in Newhall, the structure, so people can park there. They can walk. We close down Main Street all the time for our weekly census events and others. So it's something that the community is used to, and it would be a great way to allow our restaurants and our kind of the wine bars and others that are operating there to have more flexibility in meeting that their capacity. So that's one thing we want to do. Certainly, we followed the county's lead in adopting our rent protection ordinance for both small businesses as well as residential. That is actually, our order is expiring on the 31st. We have our council meeting on Tuesday, and we're going to either extend it or we'll let it expire and just adopt the order that the county has in place to ensure that there's synergy, whether you're in Stevenson Ranch, Castaic, or in the heart of Valencia. You have that there's some consistency there. So those are a couple things. One other thing, it's a little bit inside, a little bit policy wonky, but the supervisor and I serve on a sanitation district, and I know that some of the other sanitation districts are looking at possibilities of rebates or reductions in your sanitation district bills, because much of that is generated by the flow and the output in the sanitation, and obviously with businesses being closed or at reduced capacity, they are having reduced flow and reduced usage. So there might be something that we can do there as well to provide relief for some of our small businesses as they're trying to get back. So a few things that we're kicking around, but with 40 out of the 58 counties already being given a variance by the governor, we're able to see what's working in other communities, and we can apply those learnings to ours as we get up and going.
Supervisor, one of the things we've noticed. Go ahead, John.
I was just saying, one of the things that the supervisor is working on as a motion at next week's board meeting is to do a study relative to the scheduled increase in the minimum wage in LA County on July 1st of 2020. And maybe you just want to take a quick moment to talk to us about what you have come at the board next Tuesday.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I'm bringing in a motion. As you probably know, small business, especially in the unincorporated area, we did not align ourselves with the increase in minimum wage to the state. The states will take effect in a year and a half. Ours will take effect in July. And I think it's absolutely the wrong time to impose that on our small businesses, especially our restaurants, to increase minimum wage right now. And if you talk to the people, some of the restaurants say that they may have to lay off as a result of even having to increase it, even pre-COVID-19. And I have a feeling those individuals would rather give up that increase and have a job versus mandate this increase right now. So I'm asking my colleagues to consider, and I'm asking for a report back on the pros and cons. Even though I know what they are, I want my colleagues to see it, and postpone increasing the minimum wage and actually aligning it with the state and giving businesses a year and a half to rebound from the devastation that's been created by their having to close. So if anyone will please send either an email or write a letter in support of postponing it, I would greatly appreciate it, because I am the lone one on the board right now that is pushing forward with that. But I feel that people have a right to know what is happening, and this is totally the wrong time to impose another additional cost on our small businesses.
It's a terrible time, and as the chamber wrote to you this morning, Supervisor, we're in full support of your motion, and we're going to work. I know the EDC is doing it as well, working on getting some letters of support to help you out on that. I mean, businesses have literally lost their cash flow for the last 10 plus weeks as a result of the government asking them to shut down. And in addition to losing the cash flow, now we're asking businesses to operate in a more safe environment, which is going to cost money to put those things into place, and then to reopen, and then to say, now we need you to pay more to your employees. It's a terrible time, especially for small business. And I'm glad that you recognize that, and we're going to help you out and support you as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the city will be sending a letter as well. We talked about, could we, given the timing, it'll just be a letter signed by me, but it's certainly supported by the full council. So that we'll be cranking that out before Tuesday as well.
Supervisor, can you talk a little bit about the capacity for testing and what's going on with contact tracing. Those seem to be sort of the other key pillars that we haven't really spoken about this morning.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad you asked about that, because up in Santa Clarita, actually, I saw a post this morning where someone went and they were in and out in 15 minutes. We've seen the number of people coming in for testing diminishing at our testing sites. And right to date, we've had more than 40,000 positive cases in LA County, more than 1,970 deaths. But we have tested over 380,000 residents, and only 9% have tested positive. And I brought that up earlier. That's been a steady. Actually, it's gone down. It was at 11%. And now it's at 9% are testing positive, which tells me that we've slowed the spread. The model that we have right now is not sustainable, because FEMA's not going to reimburse over an extended period of time. So we're moving into phase 2 of testing, which means that we are going to be working with our federally qualified health clinics, public clinics, to allow them to move forward with the testing capacity and provide tracers. The tracing is key. They always say testing and tracing are what are going to allow us to move into the next phase. In LA County, we have 1,500 tracers right now that are doing the work, identifying and notifying people if they've been in contact with someone who's tested positive. That is, we are at the threshold right now that we have to be with the state if we wanted to get a variance. On the testing, we're also have hit the mark with the state if we wanted to get a variance. That's important, because with this variance, there's certain criteria that state's mandating, and the only area where we have not met that threshold is actually on the 9% testing positive. We've got to drop that, but everything else we've come into compliance in LA County to apply for a variance. So I say this, and Santa Clarita's numbers show that it can't happen, and that is that we need to continue to practice social distancing and be responsible so that we keep bringing that number down. And once we hit that threshold, I believe it's 5%, we can then apply for a variance with the state.
If switching topics just a little bit, and we're going to go into a little bit of a rapid fire, as I know we are going to run out of time shortly. If we anticipate that because of the demographics that older adults are most likely to, stay self-quarantined for their own protection, I have a question here from folks that are congregate care, health care facilities that say that the orders are written right now such you're not even able to go into the driveway. And so there's just a request that enables it so that people could go do window visits, do chalk art, do other things, and ask that you would carry that forward, I think, to the state level. I'm not sure if it's state or county there, but if folks are going to remain isolated, I think that's an area that obviously we need to be thinking about the ways for them to still have safe, but some level of social interaction, window visits and other things.
Well, so Mark Ridley Thomas and I have a motion on Tuesday, because I think one of the most frustrating things for me, and I'm kind of one of these get back to basics, and back to basic tells you when you look at the number of people that have died and you look at the categories they fall into, in Pasadena, 91% of the people that died came out of skilled nursing facilities. In LA County, the rate was, I think 92% at one point, and it's dropped down now. Point being, if we know that that's ground zero for both the spread and the deaths, we need to focus on skilled nursing facilities. So we are going to be putting an inspector general in place to oversee moving forward and making sure that people that are asymptomatic are getting tested, because many of the people that work there work at several different facilities, which is why you see the spread taking place. But I'm not aware of the fact, I don't know if that's an individual skilled nursing facilities requirement that they're not allowed to go to the window, because in fact, I know in some areas that is allowed. You just can't go inside. So I will find out. If you get me the name of the person that put that question in, I'll make sure we seek clarification, because I think that they are allowed to, they're just not allowed to let them come into the premises, not that they can't see them through the window. So Holly, just give me that information.
Yeah, and I think we will probably summarize all these questions and provide them to both of you and your staff. Another issue that folks are struggling with, that again, maybe advocacy at the state level would be helpful, is our wage and employment law. This is both for folks who maybe are running crews and they're putting people out during the day, and it'd maybe be easier to run 410s than a regular 5-day work week. They could shorten their work week, but also folks working from home, where at least for many of us, the notion of a break and your workday ends at a very clear time seems non-existent. Can you speak to whether or not the county is looking at ways to make changes or advocate to the state to look at those issues?
Well, I mean, obviously, if the state is doing something that is going to impact, I mean, I did not support. Was it SB 5?
AB5.
Yeah, AB 5. I think that it had total unintended consequences that were severe as it relates to especially the workforce in LA County. So I'm always open to looking at anything that's going to help our workforce. But I think we need to be very careful in how we do that, because the impact may not be, I mean, the impact may be negative, but I'm always open to working with our state legislature to make sure that we are doing everything we can to support our workforce down here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, Holly, because the governor and most of the legislative leaders have been pretty clear that they aren't, that all legislators need to reduce their bill load to keep it pretty tight, that it only be COVID related, budget, wildfire, homeless, emergent, some of the kind of core emergency programs. And it'll be interesting to see how willingly the legislators adhere to kind of those guidelines, because the timelines are obviously going to get very very tight, and the individual committee chairs are being given much more discretion as to what they want to hear. And some of that is just going to be pure logistics to meet all the deadlines. You're going to have committee hearings that you used to have 5 or 6 are going to be condensed into maybe 2 at best to try to hear all of those bills. So I think it'll be we'll be able to watch and see how many what type of legislation is going to come out, because the governor or the legislative leaders have been pretty prescriptive about what they want the members to focus on this session.
Which could be good, given some of the legislation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It could be very good for business.
Yeah.
So as we look maybe towards the July 4th as the target that
worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario. Several questions coming in about events. What's the current threshold on events? What do we see? Any ideas? What does that look like? Can we look forward to a state of the county, a state of the city? What do you think that might look like for the remainder of the year?
So
it's a tough area.
Yeah, regarding events, I think that the reality is, I mean, we've canceled the Hollywood Bowl season this year. I know that I've been working, Casey Wasserman, who is with the Olympic 2028, is heading up our entertainment division sector. And I've talked to him about the fact that we need to focus on the fact that the sporting events are probably going to be without spectators for a while, but we need to get these up and running. And so we are looking on a case-by-case basis, but I think the events as we know it are going to be put on hold for probably throughout the summer, quite frankly. I don't think you're going to see a lot of concerts taking place. I did talk to the head of Universal, who's got their amusement park, and I know Magic Mountain as well. And they're putting plans in play, and their goal is to reopen July 4th, their amusement park, because they, in fact, have put a plan in place for social distancing and have incorporated their amusement park in Florida, and they're confident that they can do the same here. I know that Magic Mountain could fall into that same category. My goal is, and that's jobs, by the way, that's a lot of jobs during the summer months. So my goal is to work as closely as possible with them to ensure that that happens.
Right, and I think locally as well, our city's Concerts in the Park series is, our probably most popular city program. And I think while we haven't made any official decision. As the supervisor said, it's hard to imagine how we could, host our concerts in the park and stay in compliance. Discussions about, the 4th of July parade, which is obviously our community signature event, is it's hard to imagine how we would be able to continue on that as well. And I think, most people feel the same way. The residents understand that putting 10,000 people at Central Park, at the end of June is really not a good idea. 20,000 people lining the streets of New Holland, Valencia for our parade. People understand that that's just not that's not responsible and feasible. So I think even locally we've made that. If I had to turn in my Pet Shop Boy tickets at the Hollywood Bowl for this year, I think we all had to make our sacrifices. So
I'm sorry, Cameron.
I know. I just dated myself. I just dated myself about the Pet Shop Boys, but
But if you look at, I'm sure everyone that's watching this, if they had to choose between going to an event or a concert or opening up their businesses, that's a small sacrifice. They'd rather open up their businesses and get to work and, entertain in the backyard, period.
All day. All day long. And I think, the governor has even responded about, fireworks shows. And, he had mentioned that, he thinks that cities and communities could still do those, and they might even be preferable to people doing their own, home shows, if you will, of, fireworks. And if people just watch it, watch the community ones from their cars, from their homes, and still have some type of celebration that you can do safely without, having those large gatherings.
What I tell people, and I'm going to have to run, but what I tell people is when we first did the Safer at Home, we had the trails and all open and people were not practicing social distancing, and it was a colossal failure. Flash forward to when we reopened trails, people respected it. Social distancing, when they had a mask, and so when they were walking by people, they put it on. We've come a long way. So I think it's time to move from safer at home to safer at work, safer in the community, and safer in the state. And when you look what Ventura County did, that's exactly where I want to be. So I think together, especially with the businesses that are watching and that are and the people living in Santa Clarita, you all have the power to keep this momentum moving so that we can become safer at work. And I would ask you all to work with us and use your voice, which I know I've heard a lot from a lot of you. I want you to know I am in your corner. And there's always a method behind my madness. Just trust me on that. But I want to get us all across the finish line.
Well,
Supervisor, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And I think we all realize how fortunate we are to have you as chair of the board this year, not only from a representation standpoint for the Santa Clarita Valley, but also your decades of experience with healthcare, social services, and the county have made a huge impact with good common sense solutions for us. So we appreciate that. And Cameron, we obviously appreciate your leadership as well.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank you, Cameron, and the city council, but I also want to thank our state legislative representatives, because I know that Scott and Lackey wrote a letter. We're going to be reaching out to Christy Smith, because as we move forward with this motion, we're going to need the voices up in Sacramento to move it, because the state has the ultimate authority. So it's important for us all to work together with one voice. And I'm confident, given our representation in the Valley, we can get it done.
No, that's absolutely right. And knowing that, the calls that we've received at City Hall as well, that, I think our residents want to, they want to help, and they want to be active, and the idea that there's there's an opportunity now for the acceleration is going to give people that hope and that encouragement to work with your office, with us, to advocate both at the board level and then at the state level. And I know when I've talked to the mayors of Palmdale, Lancaster, excuse me, it's the same, the same desires, and as the North County, can work together, it's really impactful. And I know we know this, but just for those that are on the call, that the North County, when you add up our populations of unincorporated and incorporated cities, I mean, we're north of 700,000 people just in the North County, larger than a lot of the counties throughout the state. And so we do have that ability to advocate and push, and we'll do whatever we can to help the supervisor get this home.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Holly, you want to wrap us up?
Yeah, so Mayor Smythe, Supervisor Barger, thank you so much for your time this morning. I know, Supervisor, you need to run to your next appointment. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. This will be available as a rebroadcast on the EDC YouTube page. If you go to our website down here in the corner, scvedc.org/scaling up, you can find the information about that. There are 2 more webinars next week about what is the ongoing return to the workplace look like, both from if you are working remotely and telecommuting continuing, or if you're actually going back into physical space at your office. So please register for those. We have great panels lined up, and then we will be doing an update on our economic outlook as things start maybe moving to some more level of normal on June 3rd. So again, scvedc.org/scaling up. I want to thank Mayor Smythe. Thanks for hanging in there. Thank the Chamber and, of course, Wells Fargo for supporting us with this. As you look to ramp up, if you are looking at hiring, please consult in with our America's Job Center and with our liveworkscv.com website. We really want to thank everybody for being here, and have a very safe and healthy Memorial Day weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.